ultimately, it's up to you.
Rat trap, where's the rats at? The cheese is gone, but the trap's flat. Gonna need a new fat cat to lick that milk fat. You know you like those cats, yeah. Why don't you like this crap, cat? How can we take our life back? Tight ties, the boss flies, you got your fucking hands tied. Why's that? Effects are facts. These fat cats got your paycheck in their backpack. These fat cats got your neck up in their razor deck. They flex. And these feeble mice run. They scatter, chatter, don't question. Their toes whisper, never action. These fat cats ain't got no job done. Eliminate the problem. No more robbing. Let's toss them, lob them, clobber all of them, every one. It's the average Joe that's hurting. Just steady working. Stay sleeping, don't be peeking behind that curtain. Lose your socks, shock, cause it's certain these cats just brats, couch mooch surfing. They lurking and smirking. These rats run games, they keep it secret. Family name, got no shame, playing dirty drains. Whack jobs insane, wanna own your brain. Guide your thoughts, screenshots and bots. Scooping out your hopes, sideshow cornhole popes. They laughing folks, we're their jokes. They pull those ropes, it's the fucking rat, son. You got a question. Flip flap, movie quack, parent trap, truth smack, tarmac, money back, no facts, smoking cracks, Minecraft, life rack. Gotta get that loot back. Gotta get that loot back. Gotta get that loot back. Rat trap. Where's the rats at? The cheese is gone, but the trap's flat. We're gonna need a new fat cat to lick that milk fat. Tight ties, the boss flies, you got your fucking hands tied. Why's that? Effects are facts. Those fat cats got your paycheck in their backpack. These fat cats got your neck up in their razor deck, they flex. Flip flap, movie quack, parent trap, truth smack, tarmac, money back, no facts, smoking cracks, Minecraft, life rack. Gotta get that loot back. Guide your thoughts, screenshots and bots, scooping out your hopes, sideshow cornhole popes. They're laughing folks, and we're their jokes. They pull these ropes, it's the fucking rat, son. You got a question.
Hello, hello. Evil is the destruction of freedom. And yes, you got a question. That's my message to folks out there. And I hope you are all helping me spread that message to get people out there asking the question, why? Why is shit so screwed up? Why are people continuing to enslave each other? And why are we living in a world where we still allow human slavery of any sort? I hope you folks were around last weekend for the Seed 5 conference. It was an epic, amazing event. And actually, I'm going to bring in some guests today. And maybe before we get started, we'll just spend a minute chatting about that, because I got Will Keller here with me and Chris Nelson. And I'd like to hear what you guys got any comments to make about the Seed 5 conference. Wonderful presentations. Thanks, guys, for your hard work there. Thanks for joining me today.
Excellent. Yeah, no, my pleasure. Good seeing you, Chris. Both Chris's. The Seed Conference was fantastic. I'm really honored and privileged to be a part of it. I think the organizers, Tyler, Brandon, everyone that participated did a fantastic job. The presentations were high caliber, information, aesthetics, just well done all around. I mean, the viewership was really nice and responsive. It was good to see, and hopefully we inspired some people to take some action.
Sure hope so. And that was your first kind of premiere presentation in a conference, Chris, right? That was pretty exciting to see you in there. I love that.
Yeah. It was first one in a conference, like you said. I was an honor to be there, and unfortunately, I didn't catch everyone's thing. I had some stuff to do on Saturday, and then on Sunday, I had, unfortunately, I had my little 2-month-old in my arms most of the time, crying. I was like, I was hoping to get to listen, but most of the time I wasn't able to hear anything. So
Well, that's a wonderful problem to have, Chris. 2 month in your hands, man. That's the potential for a awake, aware, alive, natural law teacher.
Yeah, eventually I'll be influencing them to be teachers and carry on the great work. And
Congratulations.
thanks.
Yeah,
Looks
congratulations
like we
on
got Brandon in
fatherhood.
here with us too. Oh, sorry to interrupt you there, Will. But Brandon's name says my name, so
Yeah.
y'all know that's Brandon Spencer.
3 Chris's and a Will.
Yeah. No, yeah, just doing some stuff behind the scenes, but I just wanted to, say what's up to Chris Nelson. Huge fan of his work. He's one of my great mentors. So much respect for you, dude. And yeah, the conference was hell amazing. It was a honor, a pleasure, to be among such great talent, such great, individuals. So, hell, I just wanted to say that. So.
Yeah, and yours was great, bringing the fire and keeping it lit for everybody. And yeah, Will, you were just about to mention, the importance of children, and I know that's, some of your best presentations have really hit hard on that factor. So
Yeah,
if you wanted
actually,
to say a few words on that.
the Seed 4 conference was my first formal presentation. So that was it was a good reunion, and it was on conscious parenting, and obviously that's a big part of my work, and I think that's an important topic. I mean, that's getting down to the main problem, right? I mean, obviously understanding objective morality and natural law, but then apply it in the world. It's parents that are either applying it or not applying it, not influencing their children, which either continues the system of slavery and generational mind control, or, we fight back against that. So it's, raising freedom is how I like to call it.
Yeah, and raising the bar, I think a lot of things that I thought about in my presentation preparation was just how all these little factors of our society and all the small evils that we accept add up to this big, huge wall that becomes a box that surrounds us. And one big aspect of that I discussed in this in my presentation, and I've discussed in past presentations, is the problem with money. And I thought it'd be a good topic for today. And so that's, and also it was in our Telegram chat. If anyone hasn't yet joined the And Evil or the One Great Work Warriors Telegram chat, there's always some great stuff going on in there every week. So, and we're having conversations and people are sharing videos. And we had this topic of money come up, and this gal shared a whole video she made that was pretty interesting. And Celine was her name. And I don't know if she's going to make it tonight, but I originally wrote down October 5th as the day for this talk. So, we're doing it a week early, but I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on money. And we'll have a discussion here with Will and myself and Chris. And if Brandon wants to jump in, and if anybody else out there in the audience wants to join us, if you've got a good mic and you're in front of you've been in front of the camera before, jump on in. The Restream link is right in the chat, right at the top. It says today's Restream Roundtable link, and you can click that in, and we'll bring you into the show and get your point of view. The more perspectives and minds we have on these topics, the better we can break them down for more people to understand, because we all kind of see things a little different. And when we hear other people's point of view, I mean, that's why I love that Seed conference so much, and that's why I love these roundtables. So what do you got to say about money? Will, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a really important topic, even for content creators and One Great Workers and just people in general. It's very polarizing. I myself have been very polarized on this topic for a very long time. I despised money, the concept of money. And of course, that did not serve me well. So I had to kind of, unprogram myself, deprogram myself on what money is, how it's being used, etc. Obviously, money, how we're using it today for humanity, is a medium of exchange. Now, for me, it's good to kind of separate, and we could talk about both. Obviously, the banking system and the debt based fiat currency system, and then the concept of money. Now, the concept of money, Mon-I, the one I, which is what? Which is knowledge. Obviously, energy, our time and attention, and the energy we expel. This is what is the true currency. So if I have a skill, I can apply that skill, and there's an energy exchange. There's a contract. I'm going to get something in return. Now, ultimately, I think in a world where we are elevated and higher consciousness is the majority, the aggregate, right? And we're in a state of true freedom. The concept of money has to shift from material possessions or material items to more of experience based, right? Like I see almost, just the energy that you would put in. If I would help someone build a house or something like that, there would be even gratitude, reciprocated, and that would be a form of money or exchange. But we're not at that level. So we have to be realistic and grounded in our current situation where we're at today. Hey, the control system exists, right? We need to understand that we need resources to fight this war. We're not going to be in a war and say, in the trenches and say, oh, I'm not going to use guns because I don't like guns. You just don't do that, right? We need to use money, and I think money does get a negative connotation with a lot of people, especially content creators, where we need these resources. And honestly, people should actually donate. Content creators should ask for donations, etc., because it depends what you're doing with the money, right? It's a tool. So where's the action applied behind it? Again, I'm separating the banking system and the actual concept of money. So I think that's a good primer. We can go from there.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. And I happen to have this slide from one of my past presentations because you pointed out the Mon-I, which, I learned from Mark Passio, the one I, and we can kind of relate that to that picture we see right there on the bill. And bill's another important word we can break down a little bit. Maybe Chris will want to get into that. But, the I is a really important aspect of that. We have I being me, and then we have the I that we see with, and then we have the one I, and that can refer to like our higher self, and our ability to like our, what do you call the crown chakra, or the eye of your ability to sense and see things, and intuition. I think in some cultures they had that little red dot. I think that was supposed to represent that same kind of idea, right? That there's this aspect of ourself that can know and see things, right? And so it's weird how this concept is tied into this occult history of mystery traditions. And what are they saying with all this stuff? Why is that all on this bill? What's going on with this? All these symbols on there. What does it mean? It's some tricky stuff. So what do you got to say on that, Chris?
Yeah, well, like Anarcha Rika just mentioned, I think you were looking for the word third eye in the pineal gland, and that's what's referred to as the actual, in Passio's work, the actual Mon-I, the one eye, is the one where whether it actually happens or not, but was the symbolism towards it with the chakras and the pineal gland, whether it comes activated or not. The state of being of when the modalities of the left brain, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere are united and are harmonized, and one's not overpowering the other in an imbalanced mode. Well, that's what Passio refers to as the activation of the third eye, and that's what the money, the one eye, as the proxy of, as a substitute for the thing that we crave, which is to have a higher consciousness, evolve consciousness, and become more activated in our human potential and our higher, realer, and truer self that we can become. And the money acts as the proxy substitute that, instead of striving for and achieving higher levels of being, then the people get focused on the false proxy of the one eye, and they just seek more and more money rather than more and more evolution of consciousness. And regarding the topic, I would say money isn't evil, since it's not capable of evil. It's just an inanimate thing. Only consciousnesses are capable of engaging in evil. And yeah, it's a medium of exchange. The problem is, as with everything, consciousness is the problem. So with money, it facilitates a lot of exchange through that medium of exchange, rather than using barter, which is a lot more complicated. But then with that abstraction, you can engage in much more manipulation and control over the external world, because of the state of consciousness of people who are so attached to money and seek to obtain it, and will almost do anything for it. So it's because of the state of consciousness, money is being used in a way to amplify the power and ability for evil to get done. I would say that's more accurate as a way to look at how it's enmeshed or intertwined with the manifestation of evil in the world. So it's not evil itself, but it does facilitate that because of the state of consciousness of people who don't use money in more moral ways, and don't reject it when it's tied to immoral things. They just do the things that are immoral in order to receive more of that false proxy one eye that they desire and want more of. And yeah, I guess I'll leave it there.
Yeah, and I've often thought that actually trade is an aspect of freedom. I've thought about times I've read about in history, and it doesn't matter how true all the stories are. There's certain things that hold true. You can even think about just in a common sense way. If one group of people are living on one side of the lake, let's say, and they are really good hunters, and they catch, they have fur, they're experts at fur, right? And then you have another group that live on the other side of the lake, and they're experts at growing food and vegetables, right? Well, if you need the people across the lake for your good furs, and the people on the other side of the lake need you for what you make, what your group is producing, the last thing you want to do is hurt those people, because it's going to get cold and you're going to need some fur this winter, or you're going to get hungry and you need the vegetables from the people that grow the good vegetables on the sunny side of the lake, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So what it comes down to is, if we need something from other people, then that creates a certain amount of possibility for peacefulness, because we need one another, right? And trade is always going to exist in humanity and people. But when it starts getting evil, from my point of view, is when somebody wants to own the whole trade exchange system, right? Like, it's one thing, everybody's meeting at the center, maybe at the lake where the clearing is, and they're all trading goods. Everything's all good, right up to the point when someone says, "Oh, I'm the arbiter of trade, and you can only trade in this way," and I'm going to say who, and then they start weighting the scales, next thing you know. And that's when it becomes evil, because it's manipulation. And so I brought up these pictures on the screen with some of the imagery we see on the bills, to point out that these pieces of paper have, like, basically sorcery on them. Each of these symbols means things. There's symbols within symbols, which are sigils. And most people don't recognize just how much symbols and sigils and archetypes affect us mentally on the deeper scale, because these things are tied into the very of what we are, right? And then our whole society is running on this current, this currency, right? It's like an electrical current. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be trade, like I said. But if someone owns that current, if someone owns the wire that current flows through, and says it's mine, then if you want to use it, you got to pay them. And that's the system we have in this money, where you can't, they're saying you can't even trade without using their bills that are marked with their occult symbology on it. And most people don't even understand what that stuff means, or what those words mean. Will, you want to riff off that a little bit?
Yeah, you guys nailed some really good points. Just commenting on what you were saying, Chris. I mean, it's all about value. And unfortunately, the majority of human beings are in such a low level of consciousness, and they're ignorant to the real world and the real self and how it all operates, natural law, the laws of nature, that they value certain things. And this dictates and controls their action, their act ion, right? The performance of energy. And then, when you're driven solely on the fiat system, on the money that we have, like Chris said very well, it's about consciousness. If money is the tool, what is the wielder doing with it? And this is where you get into greed. And of course, the social engineers obviously know how psychology works, and they know how to play the whole paradigm of scarcity. And you get, most people are in this the scarcity mindset where it's me. I need to save it. I need to get it as much as I can. And, ultimately spending it on hoarding material possessions that, ultimately the most important thing in this reality is wisdom. And wisdom is action, our actual experiences that we learn. And I would say moral wisdom is what we take with us to the other side after we end this incarnation. But so they're able to dictate the currency of people, which is obviously manipulating emotion and action, or influencing, engineering people. And of course, people fall for that. But it's still going back to the value aspect, knowing your self-worth, and doing the one great work, or working in general, right? I mean, Chris, you and I are in construction. I mean, our worth as a skilled craftsmanship, we have high worth on that. And that exchange of energy should be at a high level, because it's respectful, and it's self-love, and it's care on both sides. I don't walk around in the world, wanting people just to give me something free. Of course, I love paying someone for a really good service, because that's me showing care and respect to them, acknowledging their energy. So again, it comes down to consciousness and how it's wielded in the context of money.
Yeah, and that there was a neat comment in the chat there. Leslie said, yeah, she really liked your quote there. Moral wisdom is what we take to the other side. That's beautiful. And then I also brought up this slide with the fiat money. Maybe we could put that up here so we could look at that for a minute here. I can't read it the way it is now. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Fiat money is a currency established as money, often by government regulation. Fiat money does not have intrinsic value and does not have use value. It has value only because a government maintains its value, or because parties engaging in exchange agree on its value. So what I was thinking about, what you were saying there, Will, that I wanted to comment on was that, okay, like I started doing carpentry work. I started being an apprentice carpenter when I was 18 or 19 years old. And the rate of pay that a carpenter gets now, as opposed to when I was that age, hasn't really changed much. If you get into certain lines, you can make a little more, but I'm saying, like, after doing this skill for 20 years, like my value as dictated by our society, as dictated by the market, is ridiculous, because the amount of skill I have and knowledge at this point is exponential compared to what I knew when I was getting paid back then. And really, it's only a difference of $5, $10, $15 an hour, which is just ridiculous, And so the market doesn't keep up with reality, and people don't value skills based on how valuable they are in reality, because we're living in somewhat of a non-reality where a piece of paper with symbols on it could be more valuable than a human's life. And I could think of a billion situations where a human's life or huge aspects of a human's life and survival become less important than words printed on a piece of paper. And that is pretty sinister situation. And I think it has a lot to do with the belief system around the current money exchange that's being used and what they've infused it with. This isn't just a currency of exchange. This is a control currency of exchange. So I guess I would argue that in its current form, money is evil. You know, I don't think it has to be. Like I said, trade is good. Trade creates freedom. And we could have a type of money that wasn't evil, but the type we're using right now, I would say is evil. So I don't know, how does that strike you, Chris?
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is because it's controlled by the government and the manipulations and the inflation and how they steal from us through that inflation, and then well, it is used as a means of control. So I could agree in those aspects that it's currently as it's being used, because of all the abstractions and the manipulations they engage in, that it certainly facilitates their evil agenda. Once again, it's a tool. So I get what you're saying, but I still disagree that it's itself is evil, because it's just an object. Like you could say a gun is evil, or a knife is evil, or a screwdriver or whatever, because of what it can be used for. If most of the guns in the world are being used to engage in immoral acts of aggression and starting wars in other lands, then you could look at, well, guns are evil because of the way the majority of them are being used right now. But in itself, it's not an evil thing. And I just like to point out the aspect of money, how it's used as a carrot that's like dangled. You know, there's like the image of sitting on a donkey or something, or a turtle, and you put a carrot in front, and then the animal goes towards the carrot, but they never reach it, but they're always striving for it, but never attaining what they want. And they're being rode around and manipulated because of what's dangling. Well, that's what the money is. And then there's the stick part, where it's like the pain or pleasure in the whole behaviorism. And shout out to Brandon Spencer for his presentation on behaviorism. That's a good one that people should watch. And this ties into that, and Skinner and Pavlov and all the motivations of behavior and how that can be manipulated. And money is one of those facets. And I don't know where Brandon went. He showed up, and I didn't have time to say thanks for the kind words and everything, but then he just popped out. So I guess he's busy tonight. But
no, he's still hanging. He's hanging out in the background.
That's who's publishing the messages to the chat. Well, yeah. Okay. I was like, I don't know if it's Brandon or Leslie, but someone's on the ball on that. Cool.
Yeah. Brandon's helping out in the background. Maybe we get him to jump back in. Maybe he'll get excited about something we're saying.
Yeah. Hey, there
he is.
What's up?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your take on things. What we've said so far.
Yeah, some great points. Chris had brought up, it's a conscience aspect. Because how I would say that money in and of itself is not evil, because like Chris said, it's just a object. And if we are saying that objects are evil, then it's like you're saying like guns and firearms and knives and stuff like that. We're talking about conscious and how consciousness, how once it gets to a certain point, then that's what's going to define through its behavior what's going to be held good and evil. But the means that we are using it because of the dangling of the carrot, that seems to be what people seem to worship. The mind control that has been put in place behind that's what is leading us to, toward this form of chaos and evil. So that's really how I'm coming from. And there is a lot of, how mind control behind it, but it's really just a means of exchange. That's all that it is at the end of the day. We're told that it's the currency within the system, but how like someone had brought up in the chat, like the currency is just really like the condition of flowing. So how we can change the currency, which will really just be changing our consciousness into something that's really going to be like more flowing, like truth and doing right action and spreading real agape. free will exchange, trade, things that are not based on coercion, So that's really what I would like to see the real currency be, exchanging knowledge, that's what I would like to see the real currency be, and not this form of debt control, fiat currency that we've been conditioned to think that it's God.
Yeah, and I've often dreamed of, I like to play with my imagination, and I've often dreamed of, because so many folks you have these conversations with, they really can't imagine, or they don't want to, it seems like to me, I don't know, a world without coercion, right? Without a bunch of stealing, without taxation of each other, without having to have governments that are oppressive, without having to have a money system that is definitely manipulative. I think people would spend a lot of time doing artistic endeavors and creative endeavors, and kind of showing off what they can do and trying to reach new heights, And I think we could encourage that type of behavior and have basically like a renaissance of growth in humanity, where, I mean, if you think about art, like, it's limitless what its value can be, right? Often I've heard like real big gangsters in the world trade in expensive paintings because it's an easier way to move massive amounts of money around, right? So if, just imagine a whole community of people were super dedicated and excited about art and artistic endeavors, how much wealth could be accumulated. Because if everyone was excited about that, and that's what we were fired up about, art, then that's where we would put our value. And that would be a completely different type of caring about other people's artistic work, rather than what we're currently looking at, which I have this other slide I'm going to pop in real quick, that I think that we forget just how big of a deal our time is. Because our time, in the way things is totally codified. It's totally organized by the amount of money you get for that time in our current society. Everything we do is basically based on your time and your energy, which is your money. So if someone's taking that from you without asking, or they've created a system to milk it out of you little by little, they are actually stealing from you. And that stealing is evil. Yeah. So I get what you're saying. The money itself isn't necessarily evil, but the way it's been tattooed and stamped with sort of like hidden manipulative symbols and designs, even the color, like the exact same colors Monopoly has are the exact same colors that are on our bills. And maybe we could get a little bit into the word bill itself. I noticed that Leslie was asking in the chat if we wanted to get into the sorcery aspect of it a little more.
I could touch on that.
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, that's I agree with the whole precedent. Money itself is not evil, but how it's being used and the sigils on the bills themselves, it serves a purpose, and that purpose is for sorcery. Why do we have fiat currency? Fiat in Latin, it means let it be done. Come into existence. This is what the word literally means, like from Genesis, right? Fiat lux, let there be light. So if you take that fiat, let it be done, come into existence with the sigils on the bill, you're pretty much looking at dark sorcery of let your energy be ours, or do our will, etc., this kind of thing. And it's the sorcery of controlling people, of mind control. So this is where it gets into evil, living backwards, opposition to nature, to natural law, is wielding this tool and using it for immoral actions. Absolutely. Again, as spiritual warriors in this battle, knowledge is our greatest tool. Knowledge, and then acting on that knowledge. So understanding what fiat currency is, the sigils on the money, understanding mon I, knowledge and wisdom, we can counteract the sorcery and repel it with magic, light magic. And that's obviously magic is creating influence and change in one's environment through an act of our will. And so again, money itself is not evil. It's definitely based upon the actions of the wielder themselves.
Yeah, I wanted to add another thought I had about money in the sense of how we're manipulated by it to bring us towards even supporting immorality and supporting evil, in that essentially you can't live without money the way things currently are, because the system of enslavement makes you have to use money to exist in society in the way we currently live. That the biggest example I can think of is, well, you want to live, you want to exist, well, you got to exist somewhere. So if you want to, so what I'm thinking of is property tax. Property tax is fake ass owning something. You don't even own it. Because, I went through the trouble. Then they sent my my property tax and all this bullshit to my old address in my apartment that I don't live in. So they were almost going to steal my house and everything this year. And then I had to pay like a shitload of interest for anyways. So that's just an experience that I went through, and it's something that I knew of before, but I actually lived it. And, we can't even fake ass own land or a house to live in and exist in existence without using the manipulated fiat money to be allowed to fake ass, half-assed own it and use it. We can't even exist just, oh, well, I don't want to be part of all this stuff and I'll do things my own way. You're not even allowed to do it. You have to use the money in order to pay the tax, because then their evil mindset, all these people who don't think that they're evil but actually are, they have no problem whatsoever in going through the legal system and this fabrication of false law, not true law, like natural law or moral law. And they feel completely justified in just stealing your stuff because you don't actually own it. And as soon as you stop paying their tithe, their tax, their well, we are the rulers and you must give us a chunk of whatever you do just to be able to exist and live, well, then they're just going to come steal it from you. And that's just a great example of the enslavement that we live in that most people don't even recognize. And it's frustrating. We can't even just even eke out an existence for ourselves, and other people do it and then we can exchange however we want. We can't even get to a basic mode of existence under natural law the way we currently live, because of this manipulation of being coerced into using money to even have something that you half-ass call your own, that most people believe it's their own, that they own it, but we don't actually own it. We're just renters, because we still, even after the mortgage or whatever, we still have to keep giving them their tithe and paying them their dues. And if we don't, then they're going to come steal it from them. They're going to send their goons in their legal system, and they're going to take what we think is ours, which should be rightfully ours, and they're just going to take it all.
So yeah, and right, every time you think you got something, do you really? The more you understand how the system works and look into stories that have happened to other people, you realize that it really doesn't take much, especially when we have such overpowered centralized authority and governments that have, the police force militarized, basically. How do you stand up against that? So we came in with a good question here from Crypt Rick. He asks, question. Government manufactures money, gives its value, manipulates. How one uses it in many ways. How does one fight such a hydra? So I'm just going to start off with one, simple thing. Like Will said, I've been in the construction industry most of my life. I've done maintenance work, carpentry work. And what I've realized over time is that people do value that work. And if I put out any kind of advertisement, eventually somebody will call me and ask me to come work for them. And a lot of times these people want that work done a lot more than they care about the government or taxes. And they're willing to just create an exchange straight across with me, where we cut out the middleman. And I've found different ways in my life to make exchanges and trades with people that have things that I value. A wonderful woman I know teaches yoga, and I traded her maintenance work for yoga classes. My self-defense teacher, he and I trade. He teaches me self-defense classes, and in exchange, I do work for him, carpentry. So that's one way that we can begin to fight this Hydra. I'm sure you guys got a lot of other ideas. I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, I'll touch on that. I really like what Chris said. I think that's a vital point to kind of understand that that we are enslaved. 100%. There's no escaping the matrix. This is kind of the thing that people need to understand. We're in this together. We're all connected. We're all part of nature, right? There is no, oh, I'm going to elevate myself to 12D and then I don't have to pay property taxes. I'm not affected by all this shit. That's all bullshit, right? I mean, this is the point of the one great work, is to fight against the tyranny and the slavery, because there is no way around it in our current state. Now, you can mitigate that and do some things to try to deflect that as much as possible, and that's good. But the point being is, yes, there is the violation, and it is there, and we need to recognize that. Now, and there is money, there is fiat, and the majority of people are using that. So understanding it's a tool, I'm going to use it. I'm going to transmute that shit and use it for right action. I think this is where, when we see, government printing money, which I look at it as human beings are printing money, and the majority of human beings are giving it value. And so we need to be able to transmute that. So just understanding, getting into that spiritual hustle mentality, and it just comes down to what are you going to use it for? And there's a lot of internal work that's involved. It's something that I'm still doing internal work on, because, all of us here, we deserve high resources, because I know all of us would be using them to fight this war. This is what we need to do. And so, yeah.
Check this out, Will. I found this slide from my first In Greed We Trust presentation, and it shows the monopoly bills right up against the Federal Reserve notes. So it is a violent system that's created basically an evil belief system, because it's manipulating people, and people are coerced and forced into being part of it, whether they like it or not. So, that's not going to change overnight. In the meantime, we have to have tactics and strategies to deal with the situation. I think a big part of it is seeing it for what it is. And I really recognize James Corbett, who's done some really great work on money, and he's done some great episodes. And I played some, he had something on YouTube called Century of Enslavement, and I might play a little clip for that at some point during this episode, but it's something I'd recommend people to check out. We need to be conscious and aware of the situation we're in. Then we can learn how to strategize and work around it as best we can. But I'm really with Will that I think, we're in this together, and the only thing that keeps it alive is our belief in this. It's a religion. The money thing is a religion. People believe it, and that's what makes it work. If people stop believing in it, and if they start seeing through it and understanding it for what it is, it's not going to work in the same way. And maybe one of you other folks here, wonderful people, want to riff on a little bit what I'm talking about with this belief aspect here. I'd like to hear another opinion on that.
Well, I think it can be a religion for some people, right? It can be something that binds someone back and thwarts from forward progress of evolving. I don't necessarily see it as an evil belief system. I see it as, I'll use an analogy. I'm on a Mac, right? A Mac is a powerhouse of a machine that for content creation, for multimedia, for doing, any type of technological work and publications. It's a beast. But Apple is they're scum, they're Nazi scum, the company of Apple. So I look at money as in like an outdated tool. It's like using a really old school drill, Chris, and you have to build a house. It's not serving you well, but it's the only thing that is here. So we have to use it because we have to get the house done. So that's why in the earlier of this episode, I separated, right, the concept of money and the banking system. The banking system is like the company, Apple, and money is the tool, like the iMac that I'm on. So it can absolutely be a religion for people. It can also be a motivator and an activator for some people, right? I'll just be completely transparent. I mean, I put in a lot of hard work the last couple years for the One Great Work. I'm getting people that want to have one-on-ones with me. And I say, cool, I'll do an hour, 2 hours. Donations are warmly accepted. And I always get donations. Someone at a certain level understands that, okay, yeah, I'm going to give you this symbol of respect for your time, attention, and energy. And I think that's great. That's absolutely great. I think we all need to try to strive for that and increase that awareness of this tool, because it's a resource. It's not going anywhere. It's here. We need to use it in this current time. Hopefully we can move past it, because again, it's an old tool. But we need to respect it and utilize it now.
You got something to add, Brandon? Or not all?
Yeah, because Chris had brought up money as a religion part of it, and it's like it has been indoctrinated to be the ultimate proxy. People are attaching their egoic careers to it, and they're spending their whole lives chasing something that really has no meaning or have no value. It's just they've been programmed to think that it has all the meaning, all the value, and they'll go out and steal, kill. They'll do anything for money.
Mhm.
And in my line of work, one of the things that irritates me the most is when someone says, "Hey, at least you're being paid to do this." And I'm like, it is not about the money. Some people actually have integrity. Some people actually have principles, and they're just not there for, have the money. And yeah, we all need it just to, make, the base needs for survival, but it's not 100%, the reason why I'm there, because there are other things that are more important to me. So in this religious, aspect, people have all these emotional attachments to it, so once it becomes threatened, they go into survival mode, and then they start acting as though their life is in danger, because they put that money on the pedestal, and that's what they really care about, and don't really have true care. It's the form of dark care, because that's really what they worship, and they've spent their whole life trying to get something that's really an illusion. So pretty much the self is chasing an illusion, because you're trying to grasp something that you're never ever really going to get. So what does that do for the spiritual side? What does it do for the psychological and the mental? People are spending, working 2 jobs, trying to hustle, trying to chase just to get this dollar bill. And I ask people, like, what's the difference between $100 bill and a $1 bill? Just you believe that one has more value than the other. And in reality, it really doesn't. So that's the sorcery, that's the religious aspect, because people have been indoctrinated, conditioned to think that this piece of paper, these fiat currency, has value and meaning and is worth something.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Well
when
said.
you look into money, most people when they start off, maybe it's 9/11 or something, and eventually you get into money usually before you get into like deeper stuff. At least it was for me. And when you look into money, and then you come to realize, either on your own or someone mentioning it in whatever you read or you listen or watch, that it is all just belief. Like Brandon just said, what's the difference between 1 and 100? Well, they're both, either made of cotton, or whatever country it's made of plastic now, and It's just something they've created, and it's all a belief in the value. It doesn't actually have value, and the fact that they keep printing and printing and devaluing it more, and it's actually worth less, relative to what it used to be worth originally when it was first conceived or brought into a certain country's economy. And the only reason it's still worth what it's worth is because people believe that it has a certain purchasing power, that 1 unit or 100 units has the same equivalency as something real and tangible in the real world that you can actually do something with and make use of, and provides you with some actual benefit in your life. And it's all just a belief. And it's just amazing how this, it's a good demonstration of the power of belief. And all you need to do is believe in something, and well, there's your reality. And is it the actual reality? Well, no, because the money isn't actually worth anything in reality. And even relative to what it's supposed to be worth, like in terms of like a GDP, and like the people in a certain area put in this amount of work to create goods and services, and that's supposed to reflect the actual value of the currency. But it doesn't even, the way that it's so manipulated now with just printing it, and they don't even care about budgets or maintaining a balance or anything. It's all just trillions and trillions and trillions, just like in the US, for example, and just keep making more and more and more. Is it losing value? Oh, no, it's not losing value, even though they've just inflated the money supply, which devalues the purchasing power. But it takes time for that to catch up, and that's like the slow trickling inflation rate that they try to control and everything. But it's just ridiculous how it's not even actually worth what it's supposed to be worth in terms of what people are doing work to make that money worth, and the goods and services that they produce. So it's just completely abstracted from reality. It's been so divorced from reality. It's so divorced and abstracted, and just it's an unreality. Even though money can be used as like a medium of exchange, there's nothing wrong with that. But right now, it's such a perversion of even what it's supposed to represent at a basic level. It's ridiculous, and it just keeps flying in people's faces, and they keep using it, thinking that it has actually that worth, even though in realistic terms, with like the GDP or whatever, however you want to measure it in terms of what people actually do, it's not even close to that. But it still keeps going along and going along, and they just keep making more and more of it, because all that really matters is belief. That just that strong underlying belief that people have that just keeps it pushing forward. So why would they stop printing? Why would they just stop giving trillions, making trillions, and keep the war machine going to that then has a feedback to the economy that then makes the economy like appear stronger and going well? The whole part of that is the war economy. And so why would they stop? There's no reason to stop. They're not being held to account for apart from supporting government. We're talking about just what they're doing and how it's a perversion of reality. They're not being held to account. So why would they stop? They can just keep going and going and going. And all of us at the bottom, well, we're just going to be more impoverished through that hidden tax of inflation. And well, they're the ones at the top who are getting the money for their war profiteering contracts. So they benefit the most. They get the money right away, just like the COVID relief and all this bullshit of the past three years, where they just like, oh, we're gonna print $6 trillion, and like, okay, a family gets $500, but all that went off to like BlackRock and all the other big corporations that profited off of getting that zero interest money. And then they got to buy actual tangible things like buying up real estate and all this stuff. So they have real things in the real world with the money before it got devalued. And then by the time, that gets back into other people's hands through exchange and everything, well, then by the time we get it, well, time has gone by and it's been devalued, and it's just going to keep going and going, and money is just going to keep getting more and more devalued. And there's going to keep printing more of it because they can. And they're going to keep buying up more resources and using it to do more things in the real world, like going to wars. And and then you're just going to have the haves and the have-nots, and we're all going to be have-nots.
Yeah, I think that separation is growing right now. What I predict and see happening is this divide between the haves and the have-nots getting worse and worse all the time in the cities that I've traveled around here in California. The amount of people in homeless situation has grown by 10 times. The tent cities are expanding by the day. And, I have a lot of empathy for people in these positions because I grew up in a lower poor neighborhood. And what I've seen, and also when I worked in the court over and over, is that if you start kind of on the wrong side of the tracks and you don't have a family set up, and a lot of times people have parents that already run a business or part of some company, and then the kid just gets a job working at that company, it's pretty easy, but if you're in a situation where you don't have those things and you don't have a mentor or someone to help you out, you're trying to dig your way out of a hole with the shovels, the way I put it in my presentation. And it just gets worse from there. But like what Chris said is very true for all of us. If you just put money in a bank account, it's being depreciated. It's losing money. If you just own something, buy something and own something, you're losing over time. And if you'll notice, it's constantly being manipulated. I almost imagine these, who said it in the chat, Anarcharica said, I always imagine the communist overlords adoring these conversations, evil hand rubbing. They're happy watching us struggle, saying this is a rock and a hard place, because they're just turning these dials, right? And every time, you start thinking, okay, I got a couple $100 saved up, I'm going to, do this and this, and I'm going to get ahead. All of a sudden the rates change, and now gas is $3 more a gallon. And now everything you buy has raised a little bit. And so unless you have like a real substantially good plan, you're just steadily falling behind. But as far as going back to the solutions, how do we destroy this Hydra? I think because it's a belief, and because part of what makes it so strong is all the people knowing and believing that, like you said, those 2 zeros are still going to be worth that many things. People haven't yet recognized the true situation. They don't understand how this fiat system was born and propagated and how it's held up in a very fake way. The more people that come to understand what the Federal Reserve is, that it's not even accountable to you, and that there are people that can manipulate these things, then maybe some of that belief in the system starts to break down. We could use other forms of exchange. Like I said, we can trade things. In jail, they used to trade cigarettes. I read about this when I was doing some research on money. They used to trade cigarettes for whatever goods they wanted. And then what happened was a law was created in the jails where cigarettes were now basically illegal. So now cigarettes become contraband and stamps become the new means of trade. The prisoners themselves organize and figure out a way to have a means of trade. We're always going to have that, a means of trade or exchange. We don't need to worry that we're not going to figure that out. That's a natural progression of human beings. But what we do need to worry about is what the hell are they doing next with this system that's already been created. And these dollar bills and these cash, and we all see that's kind of going away. When they get us all on a digital, now imagine how much manipulation can happen. It's a whole nother level of manipulation. You can't even count the ones in your pocket. You got to trust the zeros on the screen. And that's a whole nother level of trickery and treachery and manipulation that we're opening the door to right now. And it's not long before that door's closed. So let's go around in the circle. Any last words? And then we'll close up this talk for the week.
Yeah, great chat. I think it's important to have this, I mean, you could also understand that your money is also an extension of you. It represents your energy. So, I'm a firm believer on using cash, spending your money at local, family-owned stores, restaurants. Be aware, be wise where you put your energy, right? I mean, there's only so much one can do, right? But if you're getting Starbucks every fucking day and, complaining about the corporation and these type of corporations, so there's a misalignment there. You could take that $10 coffee and spend it somewhere else, a local mom and pop shop, coffee maker or something like that, keeping it close, using cash, right? Every time you use some type of credit, debit card, this kind of stuff, the banks just get richer and richer. But, being aware of what money is, the belief in money. Yes, it is a religion. Yes, it is sorcery. It can be sorcery. You can deflect it and transmute it, and use it to your advantage. And I think Jason mentioned Fehu, the Nordic rune Fehu. I like to actually look at money more as the rune of Gebo. Gebo represents it's gift receiving and giving. So it's energy exchange. This is what this rune is. And I see that as mon-I, money, right? And ultimately it's knowledge and wisdom.
The only thing I wanted to say was I hope everyone here and everyone in the chat actually does use cash, because that's what I do. I go to the bank, I take out money from my bank account, and then everywhere I go, I use cash. I'm like the only one who does it, but I'm like, I got to keep cash alive. That's what I've been doing for years. It'd be so much easier for me to just use cards, but I make it an inconvenience in order to try to push back the push towards greater enslavement. So it's a lot easier to not use cash, but you're just helping to facilitate that overall condition in society where you're using a digital form, which is going to morph into that CBDC digital form, which even greater control and omnipresent watchful eye over every single purchase we do, and then locking it and making it not usable. And it's terrifying to realize what they have planned for us, and that most people are going to usher it in. So I urge everyone that if you don't use cash in pretty much all your purchases, that you do as a real person, not online, obviously, but try to do things in real person as much as you can, and use cash just to do your part to keep that anonymity alive, and to at least send a signal in the market. The more people that do this, well, they'll realize that they're going to have a harder time getting people to transition to a completely cashless society where they can control things in greater orders of degree and magnitude.
Yeah, and to piggyback what Will talked about is, where are we putting our energy? Where are we putting our money? What companies are we supporting? Where is our money going? That's something that I see a lot in the Second Amendment, community, is you'll see a lot of these so-called, groups, but they're supporting these anti-gun groups, so where is your money, going? Because that's going to be a reflective of your energy. And, if you want to use your energy for a more positive, reasons, then you would want to do that with the same thing that you are supporting, with your money. So, he'll always try to look into doing that, and you're not going to be able to change this, overnight. So if you can pull some support back from this corporation or from this group, hey, that's that's wonderful. Then you can take some small, small steps, small help progression. Then in a couple of months, hey, maybe you pull your efforts and energy back from multiple corporations. So where are you putting your money?
Yeah, and on that note, something that I often regrettably forget to do is remind people to help me out, because the truth is, I do need some money to keep what I'm doing here going. And I think, as far as however you feel about money, evil as this Fed system may be, we need to use it against this system to shut it back down, to get this message out to people so they understand the problem. And so I agree, we have to use it. And I try to use it in the best way possible and have strategies and techniques. But if you are someone who cares and wants to keep this podcast going, right now I have to work all day to make the money to be able to pay to keep this thing going. So if anyone is willing to, head on over to endevil.life, and you'll see up here in the corner, there's the 3 little bars, and you can go donate to End Evil and get yourself an End Evil shirt, and go to my PayPal me and just throw me down a couple bucks or whatever you can do. And I'll put that towards this podcast. And the more I get people helping out with the show, the less I got to work to put the show out. And I just want to add one more thing that's really important in this, is that we don't have to always work for evil people. I actually do some work now for a company called Autonomy Unlimited. And if you haven't checked out Autonomy, I highly recommend to go to my website right under here under the resources. You can either go to the tab that says resources and click on Autonomy, and you'll learn about a pretty awesome place you can go, a school, and learn how to start getting around this problem. And what I think is really awesome about working for Autonomy and learning freelancing skills from Autonomy is you might actually be able to go to work for other people that are doing the work of truth and freedom. You know, one of my good friends joined Autonomy, and then he wound up doing some work for John Bush. There's different ways to put yourself out there and do something that's really quality and valuable for people, to where if we're exchanging these Fed notes, at least we're doing it within the realm of destroying their corrupt system in the long run. So I would just say, yeah, use cash, put your resources towards freedom efforts, and even start putting your work in that direction, which is what I've been doing. A huge percentage of my time goes to helping spread the message of freedom, and like sharing Richard Grove's work, or sharing Mark Passio's work, or sharing Brandon Martin's work, or Brandon Spencer, Will Keller, Chris Nelson, all these wonderful people. So donate to these guys, donate to something that matters. If you're going to pay some money to a school, pay some money to Richard Grove's Autonomy and learn something about freedom in the process. So those are just some kind of closing remarks I wanted to put in there. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I think I'm going to close us out with a little clip from Century Enslavement. And next week, we're going to come back and we're going to see a video from the One Great Work Warriors on what is the one great work? The question we all want to know the answer to. So thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Great
Thanks,
talk.
guys. Appreciate you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Peace.
Right on. Let me see if I can bring up this last screen share, and we'll see you guys next week. Where is it? There it is. Got it. All right. Can I play it? Sorry, guys, that clip had no audio. All right, we'll just end it there. Have a great week. See you guys next time, guys.
Ultimately, it's up to you.